Something a little bit different, not police related. 4 MPs have been ordered to repay hundreds of pounds after claiming expenses which should never have been approved. Simon Hoare, MP for North Dorset, Energy Minister Amanda Solloway, Conservative MP Bim Afolami and Scottish National Party MP Dave Doogan have all been identified in expenses scandals, and the IPSA, the Independent Parliamentary Standards Authority, has now said they will be asking all 4 for the money to be repaid, even though the expenses were approved and paid by the Westminster Expense Authority. Simon Hoare, Chairman of Northern Ireland Affairs Committee, is said to have claimed 4 times for £80 driving fines issued in November 2019. Energy Minister Amanda Solloway claimed back an £80 fixed penalty notice given to her for a driving offence in London in July 2020, which she put down as travel expenses. Bim Afolami claimed for 2 £80 driving fines in December 2021, and SNP MP Dave Doogan claimed for a £160 driving fine in January 2022. Nice work. I wonder how many more are doing the same, and just how much of the public's money is being used to pay for driving fines or other costs that should be coming out of the MP's own pocket. Sir Alistair Graham, the former chair of the Committee on Standards in Public Life, said it's scandalous. If the Home Secretary can pay her fine for speeding, then everybody else should be able to pay their fixed penalty notices. MPs are ordinary citizens like the rest of us, and if they've breached the regulations for driving, then they have to pay the fixed penalty notice like the rest of us. Now, I wish they were treated as ordinary citizens, but we have seen time and time again favourable treatment towards those in Parliament over the treatment of the general ordinary member of the public, or ordinary citizens. He said, it's very clear in all the codes and everything that you have to obey the law. Therefore, your driving has to be up to a standard that avoids having any further expenses out of public funds. MPs obeying the law. Why bother when they've got so many opportunities available to them to get away with breaking the law? Energy Minister Amanda Solloway and MP Bim Afolami both said that the expenses were submitted in error, although I'm sure they have been submitting expensive claims for some time and knew what should and what shouldn't be claimed for. But it's okay. It was a mistake. A spokesperson for IPSA said, MPs are not allowed to claim for penalty charges and fines under IPSA rules. Paragraph 3.26 of the Scheme of MPs Staffing and Business Costs clearly states that these fines are not claimable. IPSA checks failed in some cases to identify these claims, and some of them were paid. We will contact MPs and ask them to repay where appropriate. We have changed our process to ensure any future such claims are not paid, and will reiterate the scheme rules to MPs. Now, obviously there are rules that MPs must follow, and as mentioned, the codes for MPs clearly states that you have to obey the law, as I'm sure it states that they have to obey the ministerial codes, and putting through driving fines when they must know is not acceptable, is a breach of these codes and should be dealt with harshly. As an ordinary citizen or member of the public, if we were to break work rules or even the law, we couldn't get away with it by saying, oops, my mistake, especially if it was using public money for reasons that are not permitted. I personally see that as theft and deception. Section 1 of the Theft Act 1968 states that a person is guilty of theft if he dishonestly appropriates property belonging to another with the intention of permanently depriving the other of it, and it is immaterial whether the appropriation is made with a view to gain or is made for the thief's own benefit. Sounds to me like these MPs were trying to appropriate money from the public purse dishonestly with the sole intention of paying their fines, thereby depriving others of that money for the use that it was intended for. Now, you also have the same Act, Section 17, false accounting, which is where a person dishonestly, with a view to gain for himself or another, or with intent to cause loss to another, A, destroys, defaces, conceals or falsifies any document, any account or any record or document made or required for any accounting purpose, or B, in furnishing information for any purpose, produces or makes use of any account or any such record or document as aforesaid, which to his knowledge or is or may be misleading, false, or deceptive in a material particular, he shall on conviction on indictment be liable to imprisonment for a term not exceeding 7 years. Now, they're pretty serious offences which would see you or I in a cell being interviewed, but not for an MP, even though they are supposed to be an ordinary citizen or member of the public. Yet again, one rule for me and another rule for thee. I can't imagine that any MP doesn't know that they can't claim for fines, and therefore, as far as I'm concerned, they have committed a criminal offence and should be dealt with, along with having to pay it all back.